I don't know.
I was expecting music all of a sudden.
Oh no. Nate shunned me from doing music for the intro.
Not true.
He said don't.
After I cut off the song, I actually went back in and cut it in because I felt bad.
Yeah, he realized after the fact that it was a genius idea. And
well, I do love your energy and your enthusiasm. I will say that.
Yeah. Well,
all right, man.
Now that energy and enthusiasm is low for this week's podcast because I didn't get to do my dance.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that hit.
Okay.
All right. Well, this is the Pew Pew Time podcast. I'm Nate, and that's Colin.
Sweet. Thanks for saying my name for me. Appreciate that.
All right, take two.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, I'm Nate.
And I'm Colin. Sorry, I had to look at my notes. I didn't know.
It's the gap that always gets me. You had to look at the notes for your name.
I had to look at my
All right. Well, this is Pew Pew Time. Today we're looking at Season 3, Episode 5 of The Mandalorian. This is Chapter 21, The Pirate. A lot happened tonight.
Woo.
Yeah. Woo, woo.
All right, man. A lot did happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good episode.
Yeah. Honestly, the moment we started talking, I said, I need to watch it again. I wish I could be watching it again right now because I feel like there was so much that they covered a lot of ground. And there were just a lot of little details that'd be easy to miss, I think. So,
yeah.
First off, we start back in Nevarro, right?
Yeah. Yep. Pretty quickly, well, I mean, obviously we saw Nevarro in a few episodes before and got to see kind of how much it's changed. But pretty quickly they get...
Karga's such a leader now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
They're doing city planning and stuff. I'm sorry, man.
I know. No, I was just commenting on his robes. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a part of me would be, if I was in his shoes, I'd be a little bored of this new job. Like coming from fighting and adrenaline to put that tree over there or plant that tree there. You know, it's a little bit less exhilarating.
Well, that's the funny thing is that apparently this was his job at some point originally. I don't know if he was the magistrate of this town, but he was a magistrate, as we learned from Moff Gideon in the first season, right? So he goes from magistrate to, bounty hunter guy back to magistrate now. So there's also this, there's still a little bit of missing information about his past and what he was doing with these pirates, which we still don't quite learn, except that, he has been involved with these pirates at some point. But yeah, Gorian Shard comes back, who I'm glad to see, spoiler alert, won't be sticking around for terribly long because I did not love the look of his, I don't know.
He was gross.
Yeah,
he was very gross looking, but he was creepy, gross.
Seaweed gorilla. It was just weird. It didn't look like a Star Wars. I don't know. It just it felt like suit? Kind of a cartoon. Yeah. So
yeah, that did feel like that.
So he shows up. There's some sort of ultimatums, and Gorian Shard is not happy, obviously, with the way Grief treated his little pirate buddies when they came down. But to be honest, I don't know why they were there to begin with. I wonder if this was all a we're moving in anyway sort of a thing, So it probably didn't make a lot of difference how Grief responded to begin with, whether he shot his guys or just talked to him. I don't know. But we learned a lot of interesting little things. Grief reaches out to the New Republic very quickly, which, this is the first time we've seen him open to New Republic help, really. But I thought it was actually sort of sweet. It was a little help me Obi-Wan Kenobi moment,
Yeah, one quick thought I had when I was watching that scene when essentially the pirates they came in on their ship and whatever and started shooting at the city, and so everyone fled the city. But I had a thought of man, does this town have no defense mechanism, nothing to somewhat retaliate? I just felt like it was nope, just run for the hills, so that felt a little odd to me. I don't know if you picked up on
you're
that,
right.
But...
I had that. No, I didn't think of it. You're right. But I remember thinking that about Bo-Katan's castle. I think we talked about that before, and how like,
Oh yeah, that too.
if you're gonna be out here in the middle of nowhere, like, don't you have to have some sort of protective, like defenses? Which I guess I don't know. Other than like, the Death Star's defenses, and like there was a an energy shield around Endor, that like also covered the Death Star in Return of the Jedi, and the Hawk base had defensive ion cannons and that kind of thing, but like we don't see a lot of defensive weaponry, on these things, except in the like battle stations. But it seems like if you were going to build something, and you got pirates around, you'd want some sort of defenses like that. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
but they just like float on in, and like from 1 second to the next, they go from happy day to like under attack. It was crazy fast.
Yeah, it was very crazy fast, and a little bit of me was like, oh, like you're ruining the paint, it's like brand new car, type of thing.
No, it was a weirdly like warm, pleasant feeling to see Nevarro like thriving, and like, oh, they're like kids, and Jawas, and the little like Babu Frick guys and everything, the little guys. It was just, there was something sort of neat about seeing this little community doing so well, and so I took it kind of personally. Didn't like it.
Yeah. But yeah, so Rebel pilot, who is Captan Teva.
Captan Teva.
Teva
yeah.
or Teva?
Yeah, I think Teva. But I don't know I can't remember if we actually heard his name before. Because he's been in a couple of episodes at least. I think the first time we saw him was in season 2, when he and what's his name? He's one of the showrunners. What's his name? The Clone Wars guy. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Do I?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to cut a whole section out of the middle of this because I can't remember the name. Yeah, he's like everybody's hero since George Lucas. You know what I'm talking about.
Jon
Can't think of his
Favreau?
name. No, the guy who's working with Jon Favreau. Am I
Dave
in an
Filoni?
alternate universe? Dave Filoni, thank you. He was in that
Oh,
episode.
I
You
was
never
like-
remember Dave Filoni?
No, that's why I was like, what? I feel like that's too obvious of
Oh
a
man, no, I know.
response.
I just couldn't remember his name. Having one of those days, man.
That's all right.
I hope I don't have to turn in my fan membership for not remembering Dave Filoni's name. But there's an episode in season 2 where Dave Filoni and this guy, and I don't know who Dave Filoni's character is. I don't remember. He was I think just kind of a cameo, just for fun sort of thing. He was in a couple episodes, but then this other guy shows up with him in season 2 when Mando's crashed with the frog lady on that like ice planet, and they're trapped underground with spiders coming all over them, and they show up and they shoot these things down, whatever. And then he shows up again on Nevarro at one point, and he makes Cara Dune like a marshal of the New Republic and all that. It's this like cool character. I'm starting to see him like develop, but I think this is the first time we've heard his name. Could be wrong. Don't hold me to that.
Yeah, I feel like this show is getting. I feel like the theme of this episode is like wonderful like delight, or like pinch of delight. Like I feel like I wasn't expecting the story to go the way it's been going in this episode, and like starting with Captan Teva. It's like I did want to know more about him. He kind of resembles that old rebellion type aesthetic, and so it was cool seeing him kind of travel around looking for help. And does he go to the island or the planet first where he's at the bar, or he's in some sort of bar? And
that's where he starts. I think that's where he gets the message there, and we don't find out right away. No, he gets the message from Grief Karga in that like it looks like a World War II like pilot's bar somewhere in like England or something like that, because it's an old hangar style building. It's just a bunch of rebel pilots hanging out. I thought that was so cool. I just had a moment, and of course there's a really cool like character cameo there that we were both pretty excited about. But he has the, he opens up the thing and he watches Grief Karga's, image tell him that they're in trouble and they need help and whatever. And so he decides to respond. But who's there with him? Tell him, Colin.
Zeb from Rebels, which is this first appearance from animation to real life. And he was he was a cool character in Rebels. Yeah. And the cool thing about his characters, I was actually going to look it up, but I forget the species. You might know.
It's a Lasat. I wrote it down. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
I had to look it up again.
Yeah. They because he's like a species, like they are able to use the same voice actor from the show. So it felt really, really real and convincible and stuff. And I thought the, exterior costume looked really, really great too. And it was a very short cameo, really, but it was good. Sweet.
Yeah. And I've said it in probably every episode we've done of this, but they're really doing a good job of tying these together, because I assume that, he'll at least play a small part in the Ahsoka series that at this point I'm, like I'd say I'm like 70% sure is going to revolve around Ahsoka tracking down Ezra and Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I'd like to see Zeb and, like Sabine and some of these other characters from the show, Hera, maybe like show up in the show a little bit.
Kanan.
Don't break my heart like that.
That would be awesome.
Don't break my heart like that. It's too late for Kanan.
Yeah.
Little moment of silence for Kanan. I guess the moment's over. No, but they've done a really good job of tying these things together, and I think that that's a great way to introduce a character like that, who brings a little familiarity in this show for like fans like us that are going to be familiar with the character, but also is going to bring familiarity to people watching that show who watched this one. You know what I mean? So if you didn't know him from Rebels, now you know him from The Mandalorian. But he's wearing like a full like Rebel Alliance pilot's uniform. So I wonder what he's flying now, because I think the last we saw him at the end of Rebels, he goes off to help the other Lasat find their promised land planet, because they were almost wiped out by the Empire at one point. So fascinating stuff, right, man. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So Teva, whatever, Captan Teva, he takes this, he's got this. It's really kind of cool to see it, because even from his first appearance or second appearance, he's got this sort of look, we can't do this on our own. Like the us former Rebel pilots that are doing the New Republic, like the Ranger thing, it's like there's only so much we can do. We need the help of other people and stuff. And so he's got this real like let's join forces vibe, And so he's at times talk to Din Djarin a little that way, like, hey, look, man, we can't do this on our own. We're the good guys. We need your help, And he, of course, talked the same way to Cara Dune, and I love that guy's attitude about this stuff, because I'm all about teaming up all these different groups of good guys, right? So he goes to the first good guys that he can think of, the New Republic, doesn't get a lot of help. But did you notice who the actor was who played the guy he goes to see? Did you know who that is?
Yeah, he yeah, shoot. I did think of it in the moment.
It's Tim Meadows. That's his name. It's Tim Meadows. He was an old SNL character. I should say actor. Which is not to say that he hasn't done other things, but that's just that's most of my memories are from that. He played a short recurring character on Brooklyn Nine-Nine and some of that kind of thing too. But anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Funny, really funny guy. He plays a pretty minor character, but.
What if I was like, oh, I remember him from the Coneheads?
Was he in Coneheads?
He's like the Cone.
Do you know Coneheads? Man, that was a long time ago.
I know. That was a joke.
Chris Farley and Dan Aykroyd. Anyway, yeah. So let's just real quick. So well, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I'm really bad at remembering character names, and I was remembering them in 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. The girl's name.
Yeah, the girl's name that was in with
yeah.
Dr. Pershing, second episode.
Yeah, Elia Kane.
Elia Kane.
Again, our new public enemy
with that
number
smug
one.
Look. Yeah.
Stupid, smug look on her face.
Yeah.
No, she's clearly at this point working, working the angle on this whole situation, trying to do something for evil. Almost certainly in league still with Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
and we'll get to Moff
I mean, she's
Gideon
totally
at the end.
influencing. She's totally
Yeah.
influencing from the inside out, and
Yeah,
you can see it in this conversation, where you know basically at the end of the day, you know the New Republic is basically telling Captain Teva like, "Hey man, it's not worth our time. Like, do you
Yeah.
really know this is an issue?" You know.
Well, and I mean, one of the things that they said, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. One of the things that they said was, I had it written down here. Basically say like member worlds have the priority, right? So they haven't joined the New Republic charter. You know, I think that the way Grief Karga mentioned it once, it was like, we don't want to trade sort of like one overruling, you know, dictatorship for another. It's like, you know, we're too far out for them to actually help us anyway and whatever. So like his whole thinking was being independent is actually better for us, you know, like we're able to do our own trade. We're able to help the system around us here and everything. And like, that makes sense until pirates come knocking. Right. So
Right.
the pirates show up and he calls for help, and the New Republic is like, well, sorry, man, you didn't join up. So, you know, they tell Teva, you're kind of on your own, man. And like you said, in part, Elia Kane really like sort of steered Tim Meadows' character toward like, let's just say it's not our problem, you know?
Well, she like jumped into the room. Yeah, she like noticed it from her little station where she works, and then
a snake.
Then it just inserts herself into the conversation. It's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know? But obviously that's
I know.
the point.
I've known people like that in real life.
You're talking about me?
Yeah, well, this scrawny little guy with long hair who was my intern once 100 years ago. Just jump into any old conversation. What's that?
I love how you said your intern.
Yeah, well, you were an intern
coffee
in my department, so no, man. Anyway, no. So it was. Gosh, she makes my blood boil now, and I'm like, what happened to Dr. Pershing? But we'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point. So clearly, she's still pulling some strings behind the scenes, and it even just her saying that makes me now think. And Captain Teva actually said it himself. He thinks these things are all connected. So, like, are the pirates being hired by the Imperial Remnant? But the fact that she jumped in and tried to like throw Nevarro under the bus, you know, or not throw him under the bus so much as like throw him to the wolves, right? Like she was like, no, we don't have to help them. Like, let's let them get attacked by the pirates. You know, maybe the pirates are just clearing the way so that the Moff Gideon's men can move into that planet. Who the heck knows? But I do suspect that now. Originally, I just thought, oh, they're pirates. They're, you know, like they're just looking for a way in. You know, they're always sort of just looking for an opportunity. All right, but let's move on. So the New Republic was no good. Where'd they go?
He went to go seek help from the Mandalorians. Mando probably specifically, because they had an interaction before, and so you know, I think he was trying to find him, but then found the whole clan, or at least part of the clan.
So it does make me wonder a little bit how much the New Republic has been keeping tabs on the Mandalorians. And clearly the New Republic isn't that worried about them as enemies because they're not going after them to wipe them out the way the Empire was, right? The Empire seriously saw them as a threat, apparently. So anytime they showed their faces, the Empire moved in there and tried to burn them out, right? But the New Republic, apparently, I should say maybe not the New Republic so much as R5D4, who is little by little becoming the little, you know, the piece of glue that's holding all these stories together, apparently... You know, in his, I mean, like only recently revealed Rebel history, worked alongside Captain Teva. And so Captain Teva knew where the Mandalorians were hiding because R5D4, like, I guess communicated it to him. I don't know. It's crazy.
It's like a secret spy.
Yeah. And again, I don't super mind him sort of like quietly retconning something that, like, I don't know, giving him a story that he didn't necessarily have before. I don't mind, but it did seem a little funny that he found them so easily when, like, 90% of their personality at this point is hiding. The other 10% is like Beskar.
Well, they made
all that they've got.
Yeah, they kind of. I don't know if they made a joke of it, but they definitely made it a thing where it's like, well, now we got to move. You know, you've
But also, hey, maybe that's nice. Like, well, I guess now they're moving back to Nevarro. Spoiler alert. But I was just thinking it'd be nice to see where they go next. But we know where they're going next. So they get into this conversation. They've got a talking stick. Did you notice that? It's like a little like whatever, like kids' classroom where you have to hold the armorer's hammer in order to speak. Did you know that? Did you see that? I had a little laugh about it.
yeah, it did. Yeah, that
Felt
was
like
funny.
kindergarten.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Who has the talking stick?
Well, parts. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't think of it like that specifically, but now that you mentioned it, I'm like,
Yeah,
definitely.
I ruined it for you.
Gives the same vibe. Yeah. But yeah, so basically, like they're the armor is giving people the chance to kind of speak about if we want to help them or not. Obviously,
Right.
Din's on board because he kind of owes him one. But Paz Vizsla, surprisingly, I mean, I think we're kind of starting to see more of his real character come out, but it's cool how they're kind of setting him up when he starts speaking to be like, oh, he's going to say no, he's going to refuse to help or whatever. But then flips it around and, basically is like, this is, I forget what he says, but basically like, or along the lines of like, this is the way we're going to go help,
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of, they love throwing those little twists at us, where he walks out and he says something opposite to whatever. He starts one way and then flips it on us. But yeah. I enjoyed that moment. I said to Brie, I was like, well, he kind of owes Din, so it feels like he kind of has to do this now. But, the sort of like, economy of favors isn't necessarily the way this all works. Din did sort of the right thing, and like this is the way is of course his like final sign off on his little speech. But it was kind of fun. He was like, why would we go do this? Why would we go picking a fight where like where we're not wanted and everything? And then he's like, because we're Mandalorians. And I loved it. I love this, like, oh, okay, yeah, so we're good. They're gonna help. Good. I did have a moment where I thought, like, man, it's just gonna be Din and Paz Vizsla on a little like frenemy like attack run, but everybody went. That was great. No, I thought that was fun. And what else happened there? I was a little surprised, to be honest, that they're so like sort of democratic in the way that they did that. I kind of thought that it was going to be like he's going to bring up the idea and the armor is going to say like, well, this is how Mandalorians act, so yes or no. But it was like, hey, let's see how the group's doing. It's much more collective than I expected it to be. It was interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I think we see a little bit more of just the armor's leadership in this episode a lot. I think this is the first, and then obviously at the end, which we'll get to talking about, you can kind of see it again of like her leadership style. Right. But yeah, so they go to Nevarro to help out, and one thing I noticed was how, I mean, it's kind of a theme of any sort of like rebellion, but like they're clearly outnumbered. Or at least I feel like they were outnumbered in terms of ships. They were, at least, right? Because they were kind of dissecting the pirate ship and how there's this one big mothership and then all these different like little mini ships fighters, come out. Yeah, exactly, like the TIE fighters coming out of a Star Destroyer. And so they're outnumbered. But the thing that I don't know why this stood out to me, but they were just so clear with their plan. And I think it's because I like watched hockey the other day. And you can kind of notice when a team is very strategic with, and they always end up winning at the end of the day. So like that piece of it stood out, which I'm like foreshadowing a bit now. But for some reason when they were kind of flying to the Nevarro, just that them like figuring out the plan just felt really like tight and like everyone was on board and had this just like really cool feeling of like uniting and all kind of going along with the master plan.
Yeah, they had a strategy. I loved that. And I think that, it is kind of cool because most of the time we don't see all of them work together. We see these little groups, like Din and Bo-Katan, when they took that, whatever that cruiser transport thing was, when they stole it, and and he found out about Ahsoka and went off, to find her in the second season. You see the small groups operating together, but it's kind of cool. This is really only the second time I think that we've seen. I mean, since really just the first time since the first season, when the Mandalorians all come out of the covert and attack the bounty hunter guild, And I love seeing them like operate as a group, and they're like commandos, and they start like they're reading the area and they're like, this might be an ambush, and they jump back, and of course it is an ambush, the sort of like warrior instincts. I love that stuff. That was pretty cool watching. I wrote down, Mandalorians are no joke.
Yeah, they're not. They're pretty good at what they do in terms of fighting and stuff. I thought the fight scene was cool. I love how, man, the starfighter, that Naboo starfighter, is just so fast and quick, and I love watching that thing get used like that. Basically, Mando is distracting the kind of mini ships that come out of the mothership, and then I almost called her Sabine. Bo-Katan goes and takes on the mothership and starts taking out its engines, I guess.
Yeah. Well, she had to drop off the commandos too. Like she had to fly low and let them jump out. Which again, man, the shots of those. So there are two shots that I really, really loved in this episode. One of the first ones was when the X-Wing takes off from like the covert, when like, they sort of impolitely say like, look, man, you got to get out of here. And he's like, all right, well, I'll leave, but I just want to let you know your friend's in trouble, And he gets in the X-Wing and like you see it take off and everything. And I said to Brie, I was like, man, I love X-Wings. Like that's so cool. Just the way it takes off sweet. And like the angle of it and everything. And I did see something about the way they're shooting them. They're shooting them with this, I can't explain it, but the way they're doing ships in the Mandalorian, when they show them, like you're seeing them in this detail that you wouldn't actually see from the range you see them, So they're like, they just look chunkier and cooler, and like I don't know, something about them adds an air of realism and everything too. But I love that, and then I love when all the Mandalorians jump out, and you're like looking down at the planet, and you see them all like jump out of like a bomb bay. Man, that's cool.
Yeah,
these guys just like just leaping out. Just another day for Mandalorians. Fly around, shoot some stuff. So cool. Oh, but you mentioned the N1, and I got to say too, man. I loved what a menace he was in that thing. Like the whole time, his little pirate buddy gets away. The guy who's slowly becoming like his nemesis or something, or he thinks of Mando as his nemesis. But
I was gonna say, I don't think Mando's thinking much about him.
yeah, he's like a nobody to Mando, but to that guy, man, they've got a rivalry or something. But he's like, just like every time you see like, oh man, group of fighters here, it's like like shooting right through the middle of him and somebody blows up and then he's like a mosquito in the midst of this. They can't touch him. It was so cool. Yeah. I geeked out a little bit about that. That was fun.
It's kind of like that same feeling you get when a Jedi is around, where you're like, they're fast, they're going to kill, they're going to survive, for the most part survive. Like they have this power with them. I feel like Mando and that ship is that same kind of feeling,
Yeah. He's a level of elite that the normies can't deal with,
Yeah.
All right, so
seaweed dude, seaweed pirate, king of space.
You like that? In the notes I wrote, R.I.P. seaweed pirate, king of space. Gorian Shard being his actual name. But also let's not ignore the fact that the armorer stepped into action for like I think the first time since season 1, because you see her beat up all those stormtroopers. But she just walks in. Yeah. The hammer and the tongs. I mean, like, I'm glad she doesn't get into any range stuff, man. But she can walk in and take out a few of those guys. I thought that was pretty cool to see her actually do something.
Well, the way they shot that too, like her leading up, it was very dramatic. Like dragging this. It was kind of like remind me of like dragging the sword on the ground. And like and creating this like noise before you're actually. Or distraction before you're actually in the room, and then
there's something sort of samurai about that. The sort of like building up to the moment of the strike or something. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
and then she of course strikes in it. It looks cool and shows how powerful she is with just was it a hammer or it was kind of
well it's her blacksmithing tools. It's her tongs, and it's her blacksmithing hammer that she uses to form the Beskar and stuff. It's just crazy. And, I got to shut off my logical brain a little bit because, like, it just seems, irrational that, like, you'd walk into a gunfight with a hammer, but, like, it is a really cool moment, so I'll let it slide. But yeah, the whole thing wraps up. They get the ground under control, just as, Mando and Bo-Katan really start taking down called the Corsair, old pirate ship term. But they're taking that down, and it's going to crash and everything. And I was a little surprised, to be honest, that he didn't like limp away to go be a bad guy again some other day, But apparently he really went down with the ship, and everybody died on board. I guess we'll find out. But like, yeah, that was decisive, man. They are all gone, I guess, and the like dozen or so pirates that remained on the planet, like they captured instead of just shooting them all. So
yeah, well, the one pirate got away. The one I don't know.
Yeah,
his
the
name,
one guy
but
did.
the one
right.
that the one that we were saying he's got a gripe with Din,
Yeah.
but Din doesn't really know who he
Yeah,
is.
he's got a name.
I don't know
but
his
I just
name.
don't remember it. Yeah, so that nobody gets away, and then we're brought down to the surface, and there's this cool moment of brotherhood, right?
Yeah, and
yeah.
wait, are you talking about so?
Well, yeah,
After
just
all
go into
this
the
is done,
fourth piece. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Well, Grief Karga basically thanks them, and as kind of paying them back, if you will, that he offers them huge chunk of land on Nevarro, and did they accept? I can't remember if they actually.
I mean,
accepted
as much as Mandalorians do, they did one of these. They kind
Right.
of bowed their head.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And he put it in a really sort of poetic way, in the way that you'd expect from a political leader or whatever. But he says, like, you may not have a home planet anymore, but you have a home with us, and something that they've done throughout this is this sort of like Old West style bringing together of the gunfighters, the mercenaries, and the townsfolk and whatever. And there's this like, we're not so different, you and I. Like, let's be a team together. Let's pool our strength against the evil that's out there. And they did that with the people on Tatooine in Mos Espa, not Mos Espa, Mos Pelgo. It's the one that we had never heard of before. And the Sand People came together to take down the Crate Dragon. It's a very similar theme of this sort of like reconcile your differences. Like these guys. We're not your enemy. Like let's be friends thing. I love that. It's a great theme. And I'm a sucker for it. I'll say that. But in the end, like you said, they're offered this tract of land, and like that's really attractive, I imagine, to people. And there's this sort of offer of like, you don't have to hide anymore. Like
Right.
Here's a place above ground that is yours, and you can keep it, you can protect it, and we won't fight you on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, there is a certain amount of like, I don't think this was necessarily their intention, but now they've got the protection of, the whole group of Mandalorians for their planet. Like, hey, that's a win for Nevarro,
Yeah, that's their defense mechanism now.
All right, so the Mandalorians have a home now if they want it, but it sounds like what they're really going to do is they're going to use it as a launching platform to retake Mandalore. And as I told Colin before this, it kind of negates a whole video I wanted to do about who's going to lead Mandalore now, because what's her name? The armorer brings Bo-Katan in to have a private conversation.
Yeah, you want to read? It looks like you have the line written down.
Yeah, me to do it. All right, yeah. So
you have a better armor impersonation.
I took notes. Yeah, I know. I do the voice great, don't I? I don't do the voice, by the way. So anyway, she asked Bo-Katan to like go with her into, like, takes her all the way down to the old covert that was in the like sewers under Nevarro, and they stand there by the forge, and she says something about like all like she first of all, she tells Bo-Katan to take her helmet off, and Bo's kind of resistant at first because she knows that in the past this has been a real trigger for the Mandalorians of the way, right? And one of the things she says is, for Mandalore to like succeed, all Mandalorians need to walk the way, not just a few of us or whatever. Which, what exactly that means is a little hard to suss out, but she does say, "You are the one who can unite us. You walk both worlds. You can bring all of the tribes together," is what she's saying, right? Now, I don't know if that means, and this is something that Bree brought up, that does that mean that everybody's got to come join the cult? You know what I mean? That everybody's got to come and do the helmet thing, and this is the way, and all that. You know, it's a good
Well,
question. I don't know.
I think her asking Bo to take her helmet off and like demand it,
Yeah,
is like telling me that I think
some level of acceptance.
Yeah, like I think the armor is realizing like, hey, in order for us to survive, as a, you know, clan or whatever, we need someone who's able to speak to the other distant, Mandalorians who don't follow the same practice as closely as, my little clan does. And so like, I think at least what it perceives to me is the armor is basically saying, Bo, be the leader to unite us, given our differences, even if some wear their helmets and some don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that was my first thought too, is probably what she's saying now is it's time for us to look past our small differences and look at what makes us Mandalorians the same, and bring everybody back together and build our strength again, which again, as we've said, I mean, that's sort of what we thought this was building to. At least that's what I thought this was building to. I also thought, I mean, again, this season's doing a great job of like, throwing off, my predictions here, but I believed that the pirate thing now was going to be some like toward the end of the season, conflict. But here we are, episode 5, not even halfway through. Oh no, we are halfway through now, aren't we? Is it 8 episodes or 12 episodes? I think it's 12, right?
I don't know. I didn't look at
it's got to be like 8. Maybe it's 10. I'm sorry. But anyway, he, Din's whole, like world seems like it's about to go crazy, because now all of a sudden, like his whole life growing up as part of the way, the helmets, all these different things, Din, Paz Vizsla, all these other guys who are like wear their helmets all the time are going to be surrounded in theory by people who don't. And there's going to be this sort of hopefully reconciliation and whatever, and Bo, who's finally found some weird amount of belonging with Mandalorians after everybody's kind of ditched her over and over again. Like, this is going to be really interesting to see play out. But like I said, now maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense to put out my video on who's going to rule Mandalore in the future, because it seems like that's been answered, man. It's going to be Bo-Katan, in theory. Assuming she doesn't die at the end of the season.
I looked up the episode count.
How many is it?
It's only 8.
It's 8. Oh, no.
Yeah.
So we are officially 3 episodes. 3 episodes left. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, so
let's talk about the end though, because the ending was pretty, obviously a big reveal / cliffhanger kind of, that I was shocked to see. I don't know why I was shocked, but for some reason it was cool. It was basically, Captan Teva still has like hey, something's going on.
He's following his gut here.
Yeah, he is, which is cool. And he's kind of going rogue and by himself, which I'm like, man, that's kind of scary, just being in the vast space just with your little ship. I don't know. Yeah. But he discovers, look, you can run it from here. I feel like.
Oh, I don't want to take it away. All right. Well, he finds this old Imperial like Lambda shuttle is what they call it, which I guess the rebellion is using too, because it was a prisoner transport. And surprise, surprise, it was the prisoner transport that was moving Moff Gideon, and it suffered some sort of attack, and Moff Gideon is missing, right? So the whole thing is apparently classified, so nobody was supposed to know what happened to Moff Gideon. We heard in the episode where we met Elia Kane that maybe Moff Gideon isn't dead, and maybe they tortured him, whatever. But it looks like now, as Captan Teva mentioned, that he was extracted. His boys came and got him, so Surprise, surprise, not really that surprised. He's still out there, and maybe he's the villain for another season.
Yeah, and that could tie in the initial attack that was in episode 1 of Bo's.
Who's
You know,
interceptors? Yeah, that was the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good point.
So the thing that I actually you have in your notes as a question, the last shot is he basically sends I'm kind of jumping. I should provide context of the character. Captain Teva from his ship sends a little like droid that kind of flies into
probe. I loved that. That was great.
Yeah, a little probe, and flies into the shuttle and is like scanning it, and that's how he can identify that it was the shuttle that was transporting Moff Gideon. But the last shot is he's like scanning this thing on the wall that's like dark purpley, black, shiny, and I actually had no idea what that was. I was trying to screenshot it and like zoom in, but like
I didn't get a good look until they talked about it. Yeah, I felt the same way. I was a little frustrated. I was like, what is it? What is it?
I was hoping it was. Wait, did they actually confirm it?
Oh yeah. He says it. He says it in the episode. They see a fragment of metal stuck in the wall, and it was Beskar alloy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and then he was like, "Oh, this just has something to do with the Mandalorians." Right?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, man. It opens up a lot of questions. Okay, so Pre-Vizsla is dead, and I rewatched our last episode, and I kept calling Pre-Vizsla Paz-Vizsla, and it was killing me. When I rewatched it, I just felt, it just kills me to see myself say the wrong word. But Paz-Vizsla, I mean, like, they showed us the flashback of when he said, like, oh, he should have been killed, So we know that he's at least got, that on his mind. Maybe he went after him. Maybe it was Paz-Vizsla. It feels like a very Death Watch thing to do, and Paz-Vizsla's, family was about Death Watch, as Bo-Katan's was at one point, or Bo-Katan herself anyway. So we don't know, who it was exactly. There's a chance, there were Mandalorian commandos in Rebels that were that they had allied themselves with the Empire under Gar Saxon. And there's some part of me that wonders if those guys still exist, if there are still Mandalorians working for the Empire. Like, that would be an interesting twist, too. So, who the heck knows? Or, man, maybe it was Sabine Wren. Maybe it was some other new character that they're about to jump in here, man. I'm telling you, the way they've been dropping these little, like, Easter egg characters in, who the heck knows? It could be anybody. It's very interesting, though.
Yeah. I don't want to jump the gun and, like, kind of I guess I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think season 3 has been my favorite so far out of the entire series. I think it's done the most connecting everything, but that also could be because I'm a big prequels fan and there's been a lot more prequel stuff in this.
Yeah,
so there could be a little biasism towards that, but for some reason this season's standing out to me more than 1 and 2, even though 2 had Luke in it at the end. But I don't know, it's interesting.
Man, if they brought Rex in, I'd be sold. I'd love to see Rex again. So that's kind of where it ends. And the big question we're left with is, is Moff Gideon still the bad guy we're dealing with here? And if so, I'm trying to decide if I'm happy with that or not. Just because, we haven't seen his face this whole time. It's kind of just been like side adventures and everything. So in these last 3 episodes, I expect it's going to really tighten up, and like the whole point of all these different pieces is going to become obvious. The bad guy probably our guy, Moff Gideon, but maybe it's still going to be Thrawn somehow. You know what I mean? Like, that would be the craziest twist at the end of this thing, and it's been very unpredictable so far. So who's to say, man?
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else?
No. I say that's a wrap on our end.
Yeah. Season 3, episode 5. It was, like I said, I'm like, I don't know if I'd say that this is my favorite season yet. But it's been a lot of crazy things happening, a lot of open doors, and it's been, for me, like, fairly hard to kind of predict how this whole thing is going to come together. So I'm excited for that. I like the unknowability. So,
yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Well,
Thanks for tuning in, and
Yeah.
we'll catch you next week.
This is pew pew time. We'll see you later.